The other thing, and this goes back to what you were saying about religion is how we kind of relate to reality. Science, the science we know and love, comes from Christianity. It's not anti-religious. It's a development out of a religious idea of God being separate from the world he created. Therefore, uh, you know, um, to understand the world, you have to be separate from it, and that's a kind of just a very condensed version of what happened. But Philip Pullman's books are very historically accurate in the sense that the first scientists were theologians and they were looking at the world to justify the book of the Bible. And eventually they were just looking at the world, but they were looking at it assuming that they could abstract knowledge from it because God was separate from the planet. So therefore, divine knowledge or scientific knowledge can be separated from its material manifestation.
It's very interesting to me, this, and I've talked to a handful of people about this on this podcast, but this idea that science and religion should be almost competitive, or they're mutually exclusive ideas, it just doesn't make sense. The way I see it is that the underlying desire to understand is actually the same with science and religion. They're both methodologies for explaining the world around us. One of them relies on this objective, imperialistic, data driven kind of objectivity, and the other one, it relies on symbol and story and motif and imagination, and what Jung would have called archetypes and archetypal forces. And the interesting thing to me about it is that they're both a desire to conceptualize the world and understand it. Science seems to be able to answer the questions of how, and religion, on the other hand, it tries to answer the questions of why. And so they're asking different questions, but they're asking it for the same underlying desire to know.
Yeah. Well, I think that's right, except there are limits on science, that kind of science. And those limits were discovered with quantum science. The problem with objective science is that the world is not a stable series of objects. The world is like people. It moves around and interacts, and there is a kind of a spontaneity and an unpredictability that is in the system. And so things like complexity theory are much more satisfactory ways of understanding how some crucial things happen, and that would include, but we would be inside the complex systems, not outside, pretending that we're not inside.